Princess Catherine was recently seen during her visit to Italy, sharing what appeared to be a light, joyful moment with two young children. But the atmosphere around her reportedly shifted in an instant when an unexpected incident unfolded. What began as a cheerful and relaxed interaction quickly turned into a brief moment of concern when the children lost their balance while playing in a specially designed activity area. Observers described the scene as unplanned and entirely natural, taking place in an environment created to encourage movement, exploration, and confidence building among children. The space featured soft, padded surfaces and playful structures designed to help young participants test coordination in a safe setting. It was within this setting that Catherine's interaction with the children took place, away from formal speeches and structured royal protocol. At first, everything appeared calm and routine. Catherine was seen engaging warmly with the children, observing their activities closely, and responding with gentle encouragement. When one young girl hesitated while attempting to navigate the play structure, the Princess of Wales reportedly lowered herself to the child's level, softening her posture and offering reassurance through her presence rather than instruction. Instead of rushing or taking control of the moment, Catherine appeared to allow the child to proceed at her own pace. Witnesses noted that she maintained a calm expression and steady attention, focusing on making the environment feel safe rather than directing the activity. Her approach, according to observers, reflected a consistent theme seen throughout her public engagements with children: patience, emotional awareness, and encouragement without pressure. As the children continued exploring the play area, the situation shifted slightly when two of them lost their footing and gently fell forward on the padded surface. Although the fall itself was not considered serious, it was enough to draw immediate attention from those nearby. Cameras and onlookers reportedly captured a brief moment of surprise across the group as the activity paused for a split second. What stood out most, according to those present, was Catherine's immediate response. Rather than stepping away or reacting with visible alarm, she reportedly moved closer at once, checking on the children's expressions and ensuring they were not distressed. Her focus, observers said, was not on the stumble itself but on the children's emotional response to it. She appeared to speak softly to them, offering reassurance and encouragement to continue. The interaction was described as calm and grounded, with no sense of urgency or panic. Instead, it reflected a steady presence aimed at restoring confidence in the moment. Many who later viewed the footage or images of the incident suggested that this brief, unplanned moment revealed something deeply consistent about Catherine's public persona. While royal engagements are often carefully structured and visually polished, this interaction stood out precisely because it was unscripted and spontaneous. Supporters of the Princess of Wales have frequently highlighted her focus on early childhood development and emotional well-being, and this moment appeared to reflect those priorities in real time. Her approach aligned closely with her broader public work, which often emphasizes the importance of nurturing environments where children feel secure enough to explore, make mistakes, and learn. Naturally, the play area itself, designed with uneven but soft structures, symbolized challenge within safety, a controlled environment where children can test coordination and build confidence. Catherine's decision to engage at their level, rather than from a distance, subtly reinforced the idea of connection over formality. Observers noted that she did not position herself as an authority figure overseeing the activity, but rather as a supportive presence within it. This approach has increasingly become associated with her public engagements, particularly those involving families and young children. What made this moment especially striking for many viewers was its simplicity. There was no formal speech, no staged interaction, and no scripted messaging. Instead, it was a brief exchange defined by natural reaction and emotional awareness. In a world where royal appearances are often highly choreographed, moments like this tend to stand out because they feel unfiltered. The small fall, the immediate reassurance, and the calm continuation of play all contributed to an interaction that felt authentic and human. As the visit to Italy continued, this particular moment began circulating widely among those following the tour, with many focusing less on the formality of the engagement and more on the emotional tone of this brief interaction. It became one of those quiet instances that, while not planned or promoted, still managed to capture public attention in a meaningful way. As images and reports of the interaction continued to circulate, public discussion quickly shifted toward the emotional tone of the moment, rather than the official purpose of the engagement itself. Princess Catherine's visit to Italy was already centered around themes of childhood development, creativity, and emotional well-being, but it was this small, unscripted interaction that ultimately drew the strongest response. Throughout the broader tour, Catherine had been participating in a range of formal events, including structured visits, meetings with community organizations, and public appearances highlighting early years development initiatives. Break time .05s, these engagements reflected her long-standing focus on supporting children's emotional growth and encouraging environments that foster confidence and resilience. However, it was the informal moment in the children's activity area that resonated most widely. The setting itself was designed to be interactive and exploratory, allowing children to move through soft obstacles that tested balance and coordination. Within this environment, Catherine's presence blended into the activity rather than standing apart from it. When the brief incident occurred, two children losing balance during play, it was not treated as a disruption, but rather as a natural part of the experience. Observers noted that Catherine's reaction emphasized reassurance over correction, focusing entirely on ensuring that the children felt secure and supported in continuing their activity. This approach, according to many viewers, reflected a broader pattern in her public role. Over recent years, Catherine has increasingly emphasized the importance of emotional safety in childhood development, often speaking about how confidence is built not through perfection, but through gentle encouragement and the freedom to try, fail, and try again. Her decision to engage at the children's level rather than maintain distance was widely interpreted as consistent with this philosophy. Rather than observing from above or remaining detached, she physically lowered herself into the interaction, signaling attentiveness and accessibility. For many members of the public who later viewed the moment, what stood out was not the incident itself, but the tone of calm reassurance that followed. There was no visible tension, no disruption of the overall atmosphere, only a brief pause followed by continued play and gentle encouragement. As the Italy visit continued, this moment began to take on symbolic meaning for supporters of the Princess of Wales. It was seen as an example of how informal human interactions can sometimes communicate more than carefully prepared speeches or official statements. In this case, the emphasis was not on royal presentation, but on emotional presence. The interaction also highlighted the contrast between formal royal duties and spontaneous human moments. While official engagements often focus on structure and messaging, unscripted encounters like this one tend to reveal a more immediate and instinctive side of public figures. Catherine's handling of the situation was widely described as calm, steady, and attentive. She appeared focused not on the presence of cameras or observers, but entirely on the well-being of the children in front of her. That distinction is part of why the moment resonated so strongly with many who saw it. As discussion around the visit continued, viewers and commentators began reflecting on why such brief moments often leave a stronger impression than larger, more formal appearances. In this case, the answer many arrived at was emotional authenticity, the sense that the reaction was genuine rather than performed. Supporters also connected the interaction to her long-standing advocacy for early childhood development initiatives. Her work in this area consistently emphasizes emotional support, secure environments, and the importance of nurturing confidence from an early age. The Italy visit, viewed through that lens, appeared to align closely with those themes. Ultimately, the moment became less about an isolated incident and more about perception, how small human interactions can shape public understanding of a figure who is otherwise seen through the lens of ceremony and duty. As the tour continued, attention gradually returned to the broader program of events. However, this brief exchange remained one of the most widely discussed aspects of the visit, not because it was dramatic, but because it felt genuine, spontaneous, and emotionally grounded. And for many observers, that was precisely what made it memorable. As Princess Catherine's Italy visit continued, attention gradually moved beyond the earlier children's play area incident, yet the emotional impact of that brief moment still lingered in public discussion. What was initially seen as a small, break time .05's unscripted interaction had now become part of a broader narrative about her approach to royal engagements, one defined less by formality and more by human connection. Throughout the rest of the tour, Catherine took part in a series of carefully planned engagements focused on early childhood development, education initiatives, and community support programs. Each appearance highlighted themes that have become central to her public work: emotional well-being, safe learning environments, and the importance of nurturing confidence from a young age. Observers noted that even within these formal settings, her communication style remained consistent with what had been seen earlier in the children's activity area. She often engaged at eye level with participants, listened attentively without interruption, and responded with a calm, measured warmth that encouraged openness rather than formality. However, despite the structured nature of the official schedule, discussion online and within media circles continued to return to the earlier incident involving the two toddlers. For many, that brief moment had come to symbolize something larger than the event itself. It was no longer just about children playing or losing balance. It was being interpreted as a reflection of instinctive empathy in action. Royal commentators suggested that moments like these often carry more weight than speeches or formal statements because they are unplanned. In a highly controlled environment like royal travel, where every appearance is carefully organized, unscripted interactions tend to stand out precisely because they cannot be rehearsed. Within this context, Catherine's reaction was widely described as calm, immediate, and emotionally attuned. Rather than reacting to the stumble as a disruption, she appeared to treat it as a natural part of the children's learning process. That perspective aligned closely with her long-standing advocacy for early years development, where exploration, minor setbacks, and reassurance are seen as essential parts of growth. As the visit progressed, her engagements continued to emphasize these principles. Whether meeting educators, visiting community spaces, or interacting with families, she maintained a consistent focus on emotional support systems for children. This continuity helped reinforce the broader message of her work, linking public appearances with long-term advocacy goals. At the same time, public conversation increasingly began to frame the Italy visit as one of her more emotionally resonant tours in recent memory. While royal visits often generate attention through formal diplomacy or fashion commentary, this particular trip was being discussed in terms of feeling and tone rather than protocol. Supporters of the Princess of Wales pointed out that her ability to remain composed while still appearing approachable is one of the defining aspects of her public role. They argued that the earlier playground moment reflected not just kindness, but a deeper understanding of how children respond to uncertainty, with reassurance, patience, and calm presence rather than correction or alarm. By the end of the visit, the incident had become a reference point in wider discussions about her style of engagement. It was frequently cited as an example of how small, human gestures can sometimes communicate a message more effectively than formal speeches or carefully crafted statements. As Catherine's tour in Italy drew to a close, the focus gradually shifted back to official outcomes and diplomatic summaries. However, for many who followed the visit closely, it was not the structured meetings or formal receptions that remained most memorable. Instead, it was a brief, unplanned moment in a children's play area that continued to resonate. In the end, the Italy visit reinforced a recurring theme in Catherine's public image: a consistent emphasis on emotional presence, grounded interaction, and the belief that genuine connection often happens in the smallest, most unplanned moments. In the days following the Italy visit, Break Time X Row 5's conversation surrounding Princess Catherine's interaction with the children continued to grow across social media platforms, royal commentary spaces, and public discussion forums. What began as a short, Break Time 05's unplanned moment during a royal engagement had gradually evolved into a widely shared example of her public approach, centered on calm reassurance and emotional attentiveness. While official coverage of the tour shifted towards summarizing meetings, initiatives, and diplomatic outcomes, public attention remained partially anchored to that single interaction. Many viewers returned to the footage and images, focusing less on the formality of the visit and more on the tone of the moment itself. Observers noted that the appeal of the incident lay in its simplicity. There were no speeches, no structured messaging, and no formal protocol guiding the exchange. Instead, it was an ordinary human reaction within an extraordinary setting, a brief moment where instinct appeared to guide behavior more than presentation. Within royal commentary circles, Break time, fives. The incident was frequently discussed as an example of how modern public figures are increasingly evaluated not only on official achievements, but also on unscripted authenticity. In highly visible roles such as Catherine's, even small interactions can become symbolic when they appear genuine and emotionally grounded. Supporters of the Princess of Wales highlighted that her reaction reflected consistency with her broader work in early childhood development. Over the years, she has been associated with initiatives focused on building emotional resilience in children, encouraging supportive learning environments, and emphasizing the importance of confidence through exploration. From that perspective, her response during the Italy visit was seen as a natural extension of her advocacy, rather than a separate or isolated incident. It aligned with her emphasis on reassurance over correction and presence over performance, principles frequently discussed in her public engagements. As discussion expanded, some commentators also reflected on why such brief moments tend to resonate so strongly with the public. In an era where much of public life is carefully managed and heavily mediated, spontaneous interactions often stand out precisely because they feel less constructed. They offer a sense of immediacy that formal appearances sometimes lack. This contrast became a central point in discussions about the Italy tour. While the visit included a range of official and diplomatic engagements, it was the informal interaction with children that remained most widely shared and discussed. The simplicity of the moment allowed viewers to interpret it in personal terms, connecting it to broader ideas about parenting, care, and emotional security. By the time the tour concluded, the narrative surrounding the visit had subtly shifted. Rather than being remembered solely as a series of official engagements, it was increasingly associated with a small but emotionally resonant interaction that captured public imagination. Royal observers noted that this pattern is not unusual in modern royal coverage, where informal moments often gain as much attention as formal milestones. However, in this case, the emotional tone of the interaction gave it particular staying power in public conversation. Ultimately, the Italy visit reinforced a broader perception of Catherine's public role, defined by calm presence, emotional awareness, and a consistent focus on human connection within structured, royal duties. And while official summaries of the tour will likely emphasize policy themes and institutional goals, many members of the public will remember it for something far simpler: a quiet, human moment between a royal figure and two children that felt unexpectedly real.